Good afternoon. I'm audible, right? Cool, thanks. So I'm Sreekanth, as I was introduced. I'm part of Atlassian. Through this presentation, I will share how we have built Atlassian's Marketplace as an API-first domain-driven platform. I'll briefly talk about the different experiences that Marketplace offers, which probably explains what Marketplace is all about, followed by some of the primitives which we modeled as domains, domain products that act as the fundamental backbone for Marketplace, some integration patterns that help us bridge these domains with the experiences, some case studies that helped us evolve the platform, followed by key takeaways. So let us first understand what Marketplace is all about. I'm sure some of you here might have used Atlassian products, right? Can I have some volunteers? Can one of you just name few products of Atlassian? Great, great. So we have more products than just Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket. So in fact, we have a booth outside where we can actually explain about different products that we have at Atlassian. So please do visit, of course, after the presentation. But the basic idea is Marketplace helps the users of Atlassian products to connect with to extend the the 1P functionality through apps that are built by the partners of Atlassian. So who build apps by leveraging the frameworks that are provided by Atlassian. These are some stats that might be of interest. Perhaps one key stat that might be of interest is the volume of API calls that the Marketplace platform actually receives. Why it's interesting is in what appears to be like a front-end heavy and experience-driven platform has a huge API volume that we receive from our partners. So, and this is powered by a robust API platform that helps us scale as and when the platform evolves. Right? So, Marketplace has two different personas. The first one is user persona. So from a Marketplace user perspective, the experience looks deceptively simple, right? As a user, one can search for an app, they discover the app, and probably they look at some information such as pricing and other things. And once they're good, they will go ahead and install the app, right? So what looks like a simple operation from a user perspective, underneath is powered by multiple domain products, which with each of it exposes different APIs. Like for instance, this interaction that you have just seen involves calls to our search domain, listing domain to fetch the product information, involves commerce domain. Let's say if somebody tries to install the app, we have to trigger the billing workflows. So for a user, this might appear like a single operation, but we see this as a transaction that is spread across maybe dozens of services. Right? So the other persona is the maker persona. Like who is the maker? So maker is nothing but a partner who build the apps of Atlassian, leveraging the frameworks provided by Atlassian. Right? And once they build the apps, they come to Marketplace and publish their apps so that they can monetize them. So this is the experience that partners would typically use. So the console that you see here, underneath it actually uses an orchestration, which again triages the partner's workflow across multiple domain products. So with that as a context, let us get into the philosophy of our architecture. So let me ask this question, right? Like when you think about Marketplace, which probably supports everything from creating an app, publishing an app, and installing an app, right? So how do you approach it from an architecture perspective, right? So Perhaps you try to identify different domains, and then for each domain, you probably assign certain responsibilities, and then you expose APIs on top of that, right? So our philosophy aligns in a similar way. So I've given a simplified architecture of our marketplace. So there are 3 layers here, as you notice. So the foundation is based on primitives. So what are primitives? So primitives are nothing but objects which are driven by the business rules. I may call them business objects. So set of primitives that are related together are grouped as domains. Like if I hope the slides are readable. Like if you see, there's listing domain, software domain, maker, etc. Right? So these domains actually are treated as products which expose APIs. So the key insight here is these are not just services that expose APIs. These are products in their own right. So what do I mean by that? By products, I mean they have documented contracts which are, they have documented contracts, they have defined SLOs, and they have support process, and which can be used by the developers who build apps who support Atlassian's ecosystem, right? Um, these domain services are exposed to the end users through our experiences. So we have 2 experiences that we've seen, like one is from a user perspective, other one is from the maker perspective. So we have a layer called BFF that sits between our domain products and the experiences. So these are intentionally decoupled. We'll talk about that in one of the upcoming slides. I'll try to talk about some of the domains so that you get the context about this. The first one is the software domain. So, like I said, Atlassian supports different types of frameworks to build apps. The popular ones are Forge and Connect. So, as a maker or as a partner, you create an app using one of these frameworks, and then you publish them. Like once you publish them, the partner comes to the marketplace to list that particular application. Once they list it, it's likely that it might go through evolution, so there'll be multiple versions of that application, right? And again, that app might be targeting a particular hosting type. Like for instance, Atlassian products have evolved from server to data center, now it supports cloud. So a product could be targeting any of these hosting types, right? So these keywords that I mentioned here are nothing but primitives. So hosting type, or let's say app version, or the compatibility, that is whether the app is linked to which parent product of Atlassian, that is Jira, Confluence, right, or Bitbucket. So all these primitives together act as our software domain. The interesting bit here is, if you see on the right side, sorry, the other side of the screen, this is the public documentation of the software domain. So we have internal Atlassian applications as well as external partner applications that actually make use of partner domain APIs. And each of these use cases, we treat them as different consumers that has different type of requirements when it comes to SLOs, availability, etc. Data exposure domain is probably a domain that illustrates why API first architecture actually matters for business outcome. Like imagine I'm a partner, right? As a partner, what do? Like I create an app. Like once I create an app, I publish it on Marketplace. Once I do that, I would like to know the insights of my app. So what do I mean by insights? The insights are nothing but maybe the search impressions on my app, or how many installations requests my app is receiving, right? What is the feedback, what is the rating of my app that I'm receiving from my users? The billing information, right? So all of this is captured through the APIs exposed from the data exposure domain. Maker. So I've been using this term maker for some time. So who exactly is maker? Of course, I said that maker is the persona who creates the apps. But taking a step further, a maker could be a large organization that has built its business model around building and publishing apps in Atlassian Marketplace. That is, their revenue is centered around the way how they publish apps to Atlassian Marketplace. Now, when you think about organization, you'll have different personas, right? Like, for instance, you'll have developers who are responsible for creating the apps, leveraging the frameworks that are provided by Atlassian, right? And you'll also have your release managers, for instance, right, who are responsible for publishing new versions of an app whenever there's a change in the app, right? And then you'll have your marketing team who is responsible for updating the marketing material on the app, such as, let's say, the screenshots or, let's say, reference manuals, any such information that is marketing specific. And you'll also have your finance team that is interested in pulling the revenue reports generated out of these apps. So likewise, of course, you'll also have an administrator, right, who has to manage all these roles. So the maker domain helps us create this role-based access control for different personas within an organization. So whether an organization is a small organization with 10 plus developers or 10 plus staff, or a big organization with thousands of engineers and staff, the maker domain is responsible for setting up the role-based access control. So underneath, it actually uses Atlassian's identity platform, but then it applies marketplace persona on top of it to provide this role-based access control for the makers. Right. So far, we've covered the different experiences that are supported by Marketplace, and the primitives and the domains that actually help these experiences realize the data on the front end, right? Now let us look at some of the integration patterns. First one is BFFs. BFF stands for backend for front end. So BFFs actually help us to get the data that needs to be rendered on the UI, right? By invoking different backend services. So you might ask, what is the need for BFFs when there are well-documented domain-driven APIs, as I've claimed all this while, right? Let us see that with an example, okay? So imagine the home page of a marketplace, right? Or maybe you can just consider this tile that might, I hope this is visible. So this is one of the tiles that you would see on the marketplace homepage. If I look at this, just consider the different services that I should be using, that I should be invoking to pull this data. Maybe I have to invoke my listing service to fetch the marketing information. I have to invoke my data exposure service to know the download count, right? And perhaps I might also be invoking demand service to know the rating, right? And the software domain to know the hosting compatibility. So there are at least 4 services or 4 different domains that I've said here. Likewise, there might be many such services that should be invoked in order to materialize what you see on the front end, right? So, and then once you get the data, this data needs to be consolidated and it needs to be presented to the front end so that it can render it. So this involves a fair bit of complexity and careful orchestration, and BFFs actually help us realizing this. Of course, it also helps us in some of these operations that I just explained could be parallel in nature, that is, you can invoke them concurrently, and some of them could be sequential. Are BFFs actually helping us in achieving our performance goals? May not be, that might be like a side effect, but more importantly, BFFs are actually helping us to transparently evolve our front end without making any changes in our backend APIs. Like, for instance, hypothetically, in this tile, if I want to also reflect the search impressions of a particular app, so I know that my data exposure domain already has this information. Maybe the BFFs just need to pull that information and put that on the front end. So this controls the changes. So that's one advantage that we see with BFFs. So underneath, our BFFs are actually powered by GraphQL. They are applications in their own right. They are node-based applications, and they also act as GraphQL resolvers for us. The next one is gateway, marketplace gateway. So again, you might ask a question like, what is the necessity to have a specific gateway for marketplace when we have many gateways that exist in the market, right? Again, the answer lies in the kind of use cases that marketplace has to support. Let's just take the API traffic, right? Like we have traffic that is received from the experiences that are public facing. We have traffic that is being received from the internal marketplace applications. We also get traffic from partner applications, right? So there are different use cases, and each use case requires different kinds of guardrails, like rate limiting or authentication mechanism. Like for example, for service-to-service authentication, is standard Atlassian ASAP authentication. And for front-end experiences, we need to support session-based authentication. For partner integration, it could be token-based, right? So hence, there's a need to have a dedicated gateway. And these guardrails that I mentioned could be dynamic in nature. Some of them we might have to make dynamic decisions. So to get that flexibility, we have a gateway in place. And one other thing that it helps us is platform evolution, which I'll talk about in the next slide. Yeah. All right. So far I've covered different layers of marketplace and the architecture. So maybe I'll just cover a couple of just one or two case studies. So this is the first one. So Atlassian Marketplace is a decade-old system. And like many services and systems that have emerged in early 2000s or 2010s, this also started its journey like a monolith with a tight integration with the front end, the back end, and the data model. And it has emerged on its way to serve so many business use cases. And right from the very beginning, Marketplace has been API-centric, right? But then over the years, we realized that probably that architecture is not helping us to evolve at a rate that I want to satisfy the business requirements, right? That is when we started decomposing the Marketplace into the layered architecture that I was just shown. What does the decomposition actually mean here? Like, of course, you have to identify your domain and you have to build your services, you have to build the APIs and all of that. But what about the other, important persona here, the partner, right? Like there are a lot of integrations that have happened over the years, right? So the first thing is, since we stepped into the domain-centric nature, we need to make sure that we have to expose the new APIs which are actually domain-centric. We need to come out of that monolith model, not just us, even the partners, right? And doing that is not an easier job. Like it's a fundamental shift the way how a particular app was represented. Like maybe what appeared like a Uber object when it was in a monolith world has been translated into so many domain objects, with each having a specific purpose. So that's a shift. So the first thing that we have done is, of course, we have exposed new set of APIs, which are logical equivalents for the erstwhile monolith APIs. And other important thing is, we need to support our integrations with the domain APIs also. So would you wait for all your partners to switch to the newer domain APIs for you to get traffic into the newer model? No. You would like to get traffic maybe right from day one so that you would get the early feedback. But then it's not a like match between the monolith world and the domain world. What do I mean by that? It's not just an API that's changing, it's also the request response payloads that are changing, right? So that is where we leveraged a pattern called anti-corruption layer, or ACL, which is a standard pattern where you can build your legacy contracts with your more strategic contracts, and it acts as your translation layer. So this is another interesting case study. Does anyone know what FedRAMP is? Exactly. So this is a compliance requirement that's there for all US federal cloud deployments. So Atlassian has presence even over there. So there are some federal agencies that make use of Atlassian products. Likewise, even the partners would like to get their apps installed in such regulated environments, right? So that means obviously they have to abide by whatever the regulations that are put by these regulators. And more importantly, when it comes to listing that app in Marketplace, they have to distinguish that that's a new federal offering, correct? Now, how will you do that? So I've spoken about various domains and its importance and its relevance. This is not a requirement that we thought about when we decomposed our platform. But then, what's interesting to note here is the abstractions that we have built while decomposing helped us to actually realize this. For instance, the software domain as a case study that I've taken, it actually exposes a primitive called hosting type, right? So there was server hosting type, there was cloud-based hosting type, there was data center hosting type. Now, federated instance is nothing but another hosting type with a different with a different compliance parameter, right? So it's just about extending that primitive, not just in software domain, of course, across multiple other domains, which helped us realize this one. I'm not essentially saying that the change set was minimal, but what I'm saying is our domain model was extendable for support these kind of use cases because when we decomposed our platform, we actually looked at all of those as primitives which are now extendable for these kind of use cases. And when we did that, the APIs were naturally extendable too. So without partners making any changes, the existing APIs, the new domain-centric APIs, are compatible even for FedRAMP requirements. The key takeaways. So I think this is probably just a summary of all that have been said. Maybe two things that I can tell here is, so treat your APIs as products, especially when you have partners integration. So make sure you are always documenting your contracts, make sure they're always up to date, right? And you never break them. And if there is any issue with, like if you have to roll out new changes, new versions, announce them upfront. Make sure you have a proper product group in line with this and hear the feedback from partners, right? That's one, and the other one is when you start APIs, right? When you start integrating your services with APIs, I think you will probably start thinking from a proper, RESTful perspective. Like you will just have APIs that are just so REST focused. But over a period, you'll get different kind of use cases, like for example, these UIs. So what could happen is you might unintentionally end up polluting your services with so much of UI specific requirements, which is not a great way to, evolve a service. So instead have integration patterns such as BFFs in our case, that will keep your domains clean and your experience is integrated with these patterns. So yeah, that's the thing. All right, yeah, with that, I'm concluding my talk. Thanks, and I'm open for any questions.